Hello everyone and welcome to today's One Card Wonder Wednesday for today, Wednesday, October 31st, 2018. I hope you're all having a great day. I am. Are you ready for your trick-or-treaters? If you have kids, getting their costumes ready and all that good stuff. I don't get too many trick-or-treaters at my house, but I am prepared for them. But today we're going to do this really adorable card using the foil edged cards and envelopes from the holiday catalog. They have this great, you can either get them with gold or silver, and I'm using the gold today. And I'm using the Alpine Adventure stamp set and the Alpine Sports Thinlits, or actually they might be framelits, I'm not sure. The dies anyway, and I'm using those alongside of the stamp set to get this gorgeous card. I'm going to set those aside because I don't need those right this minute. So the first thing I want to do is I'll just set this off to the side a little bit so you can see it while we're working on it. The first thing I did was I took some of the Wood Texture Designer Series paper, and I have this ski stamp here on one of my long blocks. It's a block I, and I used gray granite because I wanted it to kind of blend in with this, and I wanted my sleigh and my skis to have a different wood type, so that's why I did this one with the gray granite on this more gray colored Wood Texture Designer Series paper. And I just stamped two of those on the paper, and I just stamped them right next to each other because when you cut them out with the dies, you don't need a lot of space in between those. And once you've got those stamped, I went ahead and did the little buckles, but I wanted those in a different color, so I did them in red just to give a little contrast. You don't see a whole lot of it once you get the card put together, and I wasn't sure how that was going to work out, but if you just did the skis separate too, you would see that. You do see a little bit of it, but not too much. But I did those in red anyway. You could do any color you want. You could even do the same, excuse me, gray granite if you so choose. After I had those, I used the dies and I just cut them out, and I already have some of those cut out because that way we don't have to run the big shot the whole time we're talking. I'm just going to set that aside. I took a piece of Whisper White that was 3.5 by 4 3/4 wide, and I took soft suede ink, and I used the soft suede ink to do the horseshoes in, and I just put the horseshoe on the block and ink it up really well. And the horseshoe, I was going to cut them out, and then I decided, no, I'm just going to stamp them as part of the background. That gives it a little bit of dimension that way, and it's less cutting with the big shot for this card because our skis are going to kind of lay over them a little bit. And I've already cut out a sleigh with the sleigh die. Actually, there's two dies for sleighs in the Alpine Sports. One of them is just this front view of the sleigh, and one is a side view. And I did stamp a couple of those just to show you what those look like if you stamp them on Wood Texture Designer Series paper. And I stamped them in Early Espresso ink. And I thought that turned out really cute. I'll put it a little closer to the camera so maybe you can see the detail of that. But it makes it look like a real sleigh, and that would be cute added in too as well. But I didn't want too much in the background or too much in the foreground of this one. So now that I have that done, I took this piece of paper and I put it in the Softly Falling folder, and I put it in this way so the dots are up. So you've got the snowfall in the background, and a couple of them will go over your snowshoes, but it's not noticeable once it's run through the big shot. All you're going to notice are that beautiful texture at the top of that piece of paper, and I have one already run through, and you can see how it has that snowfall design on the top of it. And once I had that done, I took my skis, and I use a lot of Tombow in this and I just put a little dot of Tombow because I want my skis to be held together, and I just want them crisscrossing a little bit, kind of with this one on the left going just, the one that's going to the left just a little bit. And I'm going to try to keep this one a little straighter when I put it on the card, so this one kind of bears to the left. Now the next thing I did was I used the Old Olive ink, And I'm gonna stamp a wreath. This wreath is so cute from this stamp set. And at the very top of the wreath stamp, there is a little point, and that's gonna tell you where the top of your wreath is. So if you always know, you put that at, so you're doing that at the top when you're stamping, you'll always know that you get it in the right place. So now that that's at the top, then you take your real red, and the little holly berries also have that little point at the top of the stamp. So you know you're gonna put that at the top. And that way you know everything lines up. And then you also do the same when you get the die. The die has a little point at the top, so when you're cutting, you know you're gonna go this way. And I already have one of those cut out and ready to go as well. And I cut out some little bows and some holly. And these bows are so tiny, but they're really cute. And they're in the Alpine sports dies. And I just glued one at the bottom of the wreath. And I just used a little dot of Tombow. It doesn't take much, because I want this one to stay right at the bottom of the wreath. I don't want it at the top because we're gonna hang that over our skis. And there we go. I'm gonna close up a couple of my ink pads here because I don't want them to dry out. That's one thing. I mean, they aren't gonna dry out within just a couple of minutes, but if I forget to close them when I'm finished and I start taking photos on my cards, that could be a problem. So I have those inks. I'm just gonna set those aside. I have my wreath ready. I have my tiny little, I did a holly, piece of holly leaf, and those really cut out cute because when you cut the little holly leaves that come in this, you get one that has the outline of the holly leaf and one that is the solid, and they both cut out at the same time. So you can, you know, layer them if you wanted to. I'm not gonna layer, I'm just gonna use the solid one, and again, I'm gonna use the Tombow, and I'm just gonna put a little dot on my sleigh, just enough to hold the holly there. And I'm gonna kind of turn it just a little bit to the right. Not too bad much. And then I'm gonna flip my bow over, and just right in the center of that bow, I'm gonna put a little dot of Tombow as well. And just put that right at the top of the holly. And then I just need to let that dry a little bit. And while those are drying, we can take, I have a small piece of Whisper White paper, and I have the sentiment from the Alpine Adventure Stamp set that has Christmas greetings, and I'm gonna use my Versamark and my gold embossing powder. I'm just gonna set a piece of paper here, another piece of paper, and I'm just gonna rub over with the embossing buddy. That takes the static off your paper, and it will keep your extra embossing powder from sticking anywhere on your image other than where you've stamped with your Versamark. So I'm gonna ink that really well with the Versamark. And I'm just gonna stamp right in the center of that little piece of Whisper White cardstock. And of course you can't really see it until after you get your embossing powder on it, and then you can see it better. And you just wanna, I put a lot on there, get that dusted off. And you have that ready to emboss. Let me just get this out of the way so I don't have embossing powder all over everything. And then get your heat gun and just turn it on so it can warm up a little bit. Now, of course, it's loud when I'm trying to record, so I'm just gonna let it warm up for a second, and then I'm gonna go ahead and go over this until that embossing powder melts. And it's just such a wonderful thing once it's melted, with that pretty embossed look, especially with these gold and silver. I really like because they're very sparkly. They have a really good shine to them once you do them. And there you go. You can see how that is nice and embossed, and that gives us that matching part to our foil card. I just took a small piece. This is 1 inch by 1 3/4 for this Whisper White. And then I just have a piece of Old Olive, and I'm just gonna put a little bit of snail adhesive on this. And I'm going to attach this And I'm not going to cut it out until after I get this little piece on here, just because for me it's just easier just to take my little paper snips and just make a tiny little border around it that way. You can measure and do it by, you know, it probably would have been 1 7/8 by, or 1 1/8 by 1 7/8, which is probably exactly what that is now, but you can do it however you want to do it. You can pre-measure and then attach it, or do it just the way I just did. So the next step is I took the piece of real red cardstock that I cut at, let me make sure I've got it right. Yeah, 3 3/4 by 5 inches. And I'm going to put some snail adhesive on the back of that. And I'm going to attach that down to the foil card. I tried it with just putting the white on white, and for me it just didn't give it enough color, so that's why I'm using the piece of real red on here, just to cover up that white space. So now you've got the red on the gold, and it just looks really adorable that way. Now the next step is I'm going to take my card, move it this way. I'm going to take my sleigh and my skis, and I'm going to use some Tombow on them, and I'm going to just glue them down. Now I don't want the skis to be glued all the way down yet. I'm just going to put them up here, and like I said, I'm going to kind of make this ski here a little bit straighter so this one is coming over, because I want to take this wreath and I want it to be hanging off from that ski. So I'm just going to pull it down, and now I'm going to go ahead and stick that part of the glue down, and I'm going to put a couple of small dots underneath the wreath here just to hold it in place. So once that dries, it's not going to come off your card. There you have your little wreath on there. And I did the same with the sleigh. I just used the Tombow because it's got all these little intricate details, and the Tombow just works better to, it's easier for me to use the Tombow on this than to try to use the snail and try to just hit all those little spots. So I just used the Tombow on that, and I did the sleigh just a little bit on an angle as well. So it's kind of turned just a little bit to the right. And now the next thing I did to give it just a little bit of extra color is I took some of the Sweet Season specialty washi tape, and I used 2 of them. This one has the gold stars, and this is the red with the white polka dots. And the red with the white polka dots I did first, and I just took the little edge of it and I cut it at a little angle. I just laid it across. It doesn't really have to be in any specific spot. Just try to get it as straight as you possibly can. And then I cut the edge and I just wrapped it around the card. And now with the Whisper White with the gold stars, I just wrapped that around the card at both ends, and I just butted it right up against that red with the white polka dots. There, and then after that's not quite glued down, I gotta hold that a little bit there. That one's not there. Gotta hold them for a second. Now I'm gonna take and just put some dimensionals on the back, and I used 9 dimensionals on the back of this just because I don't want it sagging in the middle or on the edges. So I do a row of 3 at the top, in the middle, and at the bottom. Hi Angie, hi Aria, how are you? Thank you for watching. Take all these little adhesive papers off the back of these, and then we'll be able to add that to the card. So once we have that done, we just go ahead and adhere this to the front of our card. We already have our Christmas greetings piece that is embossed, and I'm just going to put a couple of dimensionals on the back of that. And I'm going to I think I'm going to center it. I think that's what I did on the other one as well. And then I used some basic rhinestones just to give it a little more bling, because I like the bling, I like the sparkle. You could use sequins, or you could just forego and not do any extra sparkle if that's what you wanted. But I like the extra sparkle. And now the last thing I did was I took the envelope and I used the Old Olive and the Real Red, and I stamped a couple of wreaths on the envelope as well. I stamped one on the back, on the envelope flap, and then I stamped one on the front because I thought it just looked really cute with one on the front as well. And then with the Real Red, I'll stamp the berries that go with it. And like I said, when you get these stamps, they have that little arrow at the top so you know where the top of your stamp is. Get your little berries on there. I kind of smudged that one a little bit, but it'll be all right. And then you've got your super adorable envelope with your super adorable card. And I have another envelope here somewhere that I could set them both there, but I don't know where I set it now. But thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's One Card Wonder Wednesday using the Alpine Adventure stamp set, the Alpine Sports Thinlits, and the foil edged cards and envelopes in gold. So I hope you have a great rest of your day. Have a happy Halloween tonight, and I will see you next week. Bye.